Why does nobody have arcade 1-up risers? I can't find them anywhere. I need a drink. Where's my monster? I can't find it because of all this wood. Stupid wood. What am I going to do with this? And why can't I find right... Hold my monster! Alright, so in my video that I'm going to show, I use a Craig jig to drill pocket holes into my pieces to fix them together. If you don't have one of these, I do recommend them. It's a great way of being able to join boards together. Really strong, works really well. But if you want to go a different route at this, what I would suggest is utilizing a dowel rod. Now, if you were to get a dowel rod, this is a 1x1 dowel rod, and get 12 inches, a 12-inch dowel rod, what you would do is you could put it right down the side of the piece, and then this right here actually would be a front piece. Take your side piece, and you're just going to butt it right up against that. So now what you're going to do is you're going to screw from the front into the dowel rod, and then from the side into the dowel rod. So that'll provide your joint there between the pieces. Now, if you run this up 12 inches, that'll put you at the height that the standard riser does. And then between them, you do one here, one at the back, one on the other side, and then at the back over there. But between them, up at the top, you would put your scrap pieces that are actually going to serve as the ledge that the arcade 1-up is going to sit on. Now, for all of this, I would use wood glue underneath the pieces and then screw them in. The wood glue will actually help hold it in place really well. So now once you get this all together, you would then take one of these brackets right here, and you screw it into the piece that's holding the arcade 1-up up, and that gives you a place then to be able to bolt to the arcade 1-up from the inside instead of the outside. Now, a lot of this will make more sense once you watch the video on how I make it. Just instead of using the pocket holes, basically you would be utilizing dowel rods on the sides to be able to screw into. So in the demonstration that you're about to see, I'm actually using what would be a panel from the side of like a kitchen cabinet. So they use this to cover up the side of it. And I've cut strips of it that I'm using actually on the edge of my particle board to cover that up on the tops and the sides so it looks a little bit nicer. Now this is a little thicker, so it kind of helps fill in some of the extra space that I have because I'm using 3/4 inch particle board instead of the 5/8 inch. Now if you use 5/8 inch, you'll be able to utilize this edge banding that they have. It's a melamine, I believe I'm saying that right, edge banding. Now this stuff's pretty cool because all you got to do is just take an iron and you just heat it up, and it's got glue on the back that will just bond it to the side of it. And then you just take a file and file the edge down even. So that's actually something that I've done on this piece right here. So you can see right here the edge banding, which I have going around it. That's super simple, a lot quicker than trying to use these strips. I do like these strips though. I think it gives it a very nice look. Also, the fact that it's a little bit thicker actually looks kind of cool on the outside of it. So if you go with my measurements, which once again, 20 inches for these pieces, and then 12 3/4 this way. If you use 3/4 inch particle board, you're going to need to use something like this that's thicker. If you use the 5/8 inch, this edge banding will work out great. Now, of course, if you want to use this edge banding and you want to use 3/4 inch, you can adjust your measurements on the pieces as you see fit. So I'm using 3/4 inch particle board for this. I'm going to give myself some extra room here and cut about a 1-inch strip of this. So I'm just going to make a couple of marks here. And then I'll set my straight edge right there against those. I'm just using a box cutter for this, or a utility knife, I guess. Actually, not a box cutter. And just come down and score it. I'm going to do this a few times and just keep scoring it a little bit deeper, until I get it really nice and scored. And then I'm going to move it back off the table to where I can cut through it all the way. Don't do that. That wasn't good. Should have kept the straight edge on it a little longer. Now once you do that, you make a new groove and you've gone off like that. You gotta be real careful coming back because the blade wants to follow that. It's probably be a lot quicker and a lot easier to run a circular saw down here to cut this off. But it's pretty poor conditions outside today, and I really don't want to make a circular saw mess in my house. So this seemed like an easy way to do this, and also a way for somebody that might not have a circular saw that they would want to use for this. So now we're just getting real close here. Got most of it cut, just these ends left. So it's important to be careful with your hand placement, because obviously I'm pulling pretty hard on this and I really don't want to get a utility knife into my hand. So there we go. We have our strip that we'll be able to glue onto the piece now. Alright, so I've already glued a strip on to the top face of this panel. So now I'm going to be doing the side panel. I've already cut the strip, so you want to cut it just a little bit long. That way you have some room to actually be able to file it off to make sure that we get it nice and even. So I'm going to go ahead and put some wood glue onto my strip here. You don't need a whole ton, but you want to make sure that you get the area covered that's going to be connecting to the wood. So just make sure you get it good and covered there. Just a thin coat, that's all you need though. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put this on here. Want to make sure that we get coverage over the front and the back so that we don't have any of the surface, the side surface of the particle board still showing. Alright, so now once we get that there, if you have the type of clamps you can clamp over here that will push this in, that'd be good. That'll give you a little better bond there. I do not have that though. So another option that you can utilize is taking masking tape. It's not as good as a clamp, but you can take your masking tape over that edge to hold it in place. That is, if you can get the masking tape actually started, so that always helps, right? So if you get a piece of masking tape, just take it, stick it to the side first. That way you don't pull down on the strip, and then just adhere it to the piece itself, which I'm going to do just a couple here. Just keep it in place while that dries. Again, if you have a way to actually clamp this, go for it, because that will help the glue to stick even better. Okay, now we can do the other side over here as long as we're careful not to move this, and then we'll have to let this dry and we'll file it down. Alright, so here we have one of our end pieces. This is going to be the front of the riser, and we have the trim put on the two sides and the top of it. So now we need to get it flush with the panel itself. There's a few different ways that we can do this. One way would be a flush cut saw. You can also use a file to do it, and you can also use a oscillating multifunction tool. Mine's extremely loud, and since I'm working in the house, I'm going to pass on using that and actually use a combination of these. Now, what I've found is the file works well when your piece is real close to the edge. But for something like this, where we're further off, that's where I'm going to use the flush cut saw. Also, the file you're going to want to keep around too, for once you do have it flush, to be able to kind of file the corner a bit to get rid of any splinters on it. So we'll use the file right here to finish this up. I've done quite a bit of this. But I'll show you when you use the flush cut saw and it's not sticking up very far above the panel, it creates a situation where you're just basically kind of making sawdust, right? So it's not necessarily the best use of the tool. I mean, it works. It might actually be faster than filing, I don't know. But we're just kind of kicking up a whole ton of sawdust by doing that. But you can see it's still a little proud there, so I'll just run the file over it. Okay, there we go. So that's pretty flush. And we're just going to continue working our way around, and then we'll have to flip it over and do the other side as well. I'm going to utilize pocket holes to connect the side with the front and the back. So what we have here is I've already drilled the pocket holes in one of the sides. Now you'll notice that the side only has the trim at the top. It does not have trim on the front and its back, since they're going to be connecting into the front piece and the back piece. Now for the portion that's connecting into the front, I've positioned the pocket holes pretty far out to the sides. But for the part that's going to connect into the back, I need to do that a little bit differently. The back side, I'm going to have a smaller piece that allows cables to be run underneath, also keeps the back of the riser from interfering with quarter round or potentially trim at the bottom of the wall. So it allows you to kind of tuck it back a little bit further. So for that, what I'm going to do is knock everything over. I'm going to get my back piece, which is still drying here. So I got the trim drying on that. And I'm going to go ahead and just make a mark here, letting me know to get my pocket holes inside of here so I don't have it down at the bottom. Now the thing that you got to be careful with though is when you go to do the other side, it's going to be reversed. So it needs to be on this side of it. So I'll go ahead and draw my line there while I'm thinking of it. All right. Now that we have our lines there, what I'll do is I'll flip this around. And for my pocket holes, I like to use a Craig jig. Gotten a ton of use out of this thing. So it's not a terribly expensive tool, but man, is it a handy one to have. The pocket holes create a really good, really strong joint between two pieces, and they can be concealed on the inside. So you don't end up with the screws being on the outside, which I think makes the finished product look a little nicer. So we're going to clamp this down in here. This jig's been set for 3/4 of an inch wood, which is what we're utilizing, as well as the drill bit. So we're just going to place it down into the pocket here, or into the jig, and just drill the holes through. Okay, so we got one hole there. Now we're going to do one more up here at the top. I do like to alternate which hole I use to drill with. That way the inside of it doesn't get worn down as quickly. All right, now that that's done, I'll go ahead and drill the pocket holes on the other side and get the back ready, and we'll be ready to assemble it. All right, so now we have the trim around all of our pieces. Again, the front and the back are going to have trim on the sides and the top, whereas the side pieces will only have the trim on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to start joining these together. So this is my front piece. I want to decide which side I want facing out. So I'm gonna kind of look at the two sides here, and I think I'm gonna go with this side facing out. So what I'm gonna do, put this face down, and I'm gonna get one of my side pieces here. So now again, it's important to remember that we spaced the pocket holes differently for the back of it than we did the front of it. So that's going to determine which one we want to put into our piece. So this right here, you got the top up here, top here, so I need to match that. This is the back, this is the front, so it's gonna go over on this side here. So what I'm gonna do is flip this around, and I have some clamps here for the corners. So these are good to get the piece in place and keep it there so that it doesn't get out of alignment and out of square. So these are really handy things to have around. Now I am going to be using some wood glue for this. I don't typically, excuse me, sorry about that. I don't typically need wood glue for pocket holes, but since we're doing this in particle board is not the strongest medium for screws to actually latch into. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize some wood glue just to make sure it's secured tightly. So I'll go ahead and put the wood glue actually on the end of the side piece here. You don't need to put a whole ton, just like a beat down the middle of it, and then when we screw it together, I got actually a pretty good glob there. When we screw it together, that will actually spread the glue out and pull it together. So again, make sure that you're using the right pieces here. So I didn't line that up very well, but it's okay. So you can see the pocket holes that are farther apart are the ones that we have going to the front here. And then I'm going to take my clamp and put it here in this corner. And once we have this clamped in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clamp down my piece to my table here, just to help hold everything in place here. And actually I think I'll clamp the other side too, just to be as secure as possible. There we go. For this, we are using 1 1/4 inch pocket screws, since this is 3/4 inch wood. Now, I do recommend that you lower your drill to the lowest speed, and then also set the, I don't know, clutch or what it is, to actually fairly low, so that it starts to actually break instead of putting the screw through the other side, because the particle board is really easy to screw into. So all right, yeah, and it looks like that setting's good. It drove it in there, it did not come out the other side. And there you go. So now we'll go ahead and do the other side piece, and then we'll do the back. All right, now for the back piece, I do find it best to actually apply the glue to the back piece itself as opposed to the sides of the main unit here, simply because this piece is going to be shorter. So if you apply it to the sides here, you're going to end up with extra glue on the part that's not connected. So we'll go ahead and pick this up. Maybe I should have let that glue dry a little bit longer. There we go. All right. And we'll place this in place here on the back. And I'll try to turn it here so that hopefully you can see here why we placed the pocket holes differently on this piece than on the front. And see that if we had it here, it wouldn't have had anything to screw it into. All right, so let's go ahead and get this lined up here. This piece can be a little bit tricky to line up. So for this one, what I'm going to do is get one side lined up. I'm not going to use the clamps on this. Maybe I should, but they're really difficult to try to get on this last piece. So, especially down here at the bottom where it's different. I'm going to go ahead and get my screw. And I guess we'll turn this so that maybe you can see somewhat of what I'm doing here. Put it in here. Really try here to get this as close as I can. All right, right about there we got it. So go ahead and get this guy in. Okay. And then we'll get the bottom straightened out here. Okay. Drop that in. Okay, and we'll do the same thing now for the other side. So if we want to go with the standard Arcade 1-Up riser height, that means we're going to want to raise it up 1 foot. So we're going to take a measuring tape and then on the inside here make a mark at 1 foot, and we know that that's going to be where we want the top of our support to be. So we'll make a few of those just so that we can keep it nice and level across. Okay, so what I have here is a extra scrap piece that was left over from cutting out the panels here for the riser. I've lined the edge that's facing me up with that 12-inch mark that we made so that it will provide the ledge for the Arcade 1-Up to sit on. Additionally, I'm also using this mending plate. This is a double wide mending plate to provide a piece to be able to actually screw into the cabinet. Now this will screw in from the inside of the cabinet instead of the outside like the Arcade 1-Up machines, or Arcade 1-Up risers, excuse me. So that way your screws will be hidden on the inside. And even if you don't screw it in, it provides a nice bit of stability there. All right, and what for screwing this in, we're going to use a 1.25" screw. So we have 1.5 inches of material here, so that'll be plenty of material. We just want to make sure that we don't screw these in too tight. So adjust your drill appropriately so that you don't send it all the way through into whatever surface you're working on. So I'm going to start by screwing in this mending plate. So I'll go ahead and line it up here. And you just kind of want to get this roughly in the center here. Okay, got one screw in there. We'll get the next one in. And then we're going to put 2 screws, one on each side here as well. Now the screws don't provide a whole ton of holding force because of the particle board. However, they do hold the piece in place for the glue to dry well, and it does provide a little bit of extra stability. But really, I think the glue here is going to be the main thing that's really providing the support. Now you want to be careful there. My clutch did not kick in, so I'll go ahead and I'll lower my settings here, but just be careful that you don't end up drilling through the other side, or screwing through the other side, I guess. All right, there we go. So it's all done except for the finish, but we'll go ahead and test fit it here before applying any finish to it. Okay, so here we are with the Final Fight Arcade 1-Up machine on the riser that we just built. You can see it's at a much better height now than where it would be otherwise to play it while standing. It could seem to be a little bit taller for adults. However, I have kids, and at this height, they still kind of tend to stand on their tippy toes to play it, even though they don't really have to. You can see if I move around to the side here, it's at a pretty reasonable height for me. I'm not having to bend over. The screen's a little low, as a lot of people have noted when these things are on risers. It does still tend to be kind of low when you're looking down at it. Showing you one more thing here on the back. You can recall that we use the shorter piece here. This allows us to run the cable down through and then out the bottom on the back. Plus, if you have any cord around, this will allow it to actually sit flusher to the wall over top of that. Now, if you have if you really want to get it flush to the wall, you'll want to make this actually even a little bit higher to get over any trim that you have baseboards at the bottom of your wall. So that's something you can consider depending on how flat you want the unit to sit to your wall. Now we just need to finish it. You can see with my Street Fighter cabinet here that I've actually painted that one. Now that one I did with a roller. This one I think I'm going to try to spray it. I got a electric spray gun. We'll see how that does. But that'll be another video for this. I think I'm going to call it done. If you liked the video, please feel free to like it. If you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the thumbs down. Please tell me why you didn't like it. That way I can do better next time. But hopefully you did like it. If you want to see more, see how the finish turns out on it, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And you can hit the bell to get notified of all my videos if you'd like. That way you don't miss any exciting Arcade 1-Up or stereo or just build videos that I do. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great day.